Segal talk at the Mark Segal Theater Center at the Graduate Center CUNY in Midtown Manhattan, New York. It's a sunny day outside, and it looks like finally we turned the corner here when it comes to weather. I hear it's raining a lot in Germany. We have guests with us here from the important region, the Ruhr, in Germany, a former industrial landscape that was dominated by steel and industrial productions, and has turned a corner and is now also known, or very much known, for its cultural work, artistic work, for festivals, great theater, dance that is happening there. It's a great model for decentralization of the arts away from just the capitals. And today we have three guests with us: Bettina Milz, who started and works as an artist and now works from the ministry and as a support for art. I will go to her bio a little bit later. We have with us the great Festival Theater der Welt, Theater of the World, which is going to happen or not, or opening or not, we don't know yet at this time. And also the important Ruhr Festspiele. So they have two big festivals about to open in the middle of a lockdown. And so we want to know more. What is happening in Germany? How is it all working? We just had this devastating call yesterday from India, the darkest call. I mean, we have done these conversations since last March. We have 150 conversations with almost 200 artists from 50 or 60 countries. We produce talks every day. We were the only, or one of the only theater institutions really creating the program. It was the darkest talk we had, and this hopefully could show us that things are possible, that we can do something, that there are also nations where things are working, and theater have a strong footing, and also it's alive but fighting with the time of Corona. So Bettina, Olaf and Stefan, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Where are you all? Maybe you can tell us where you are at the moment. Bettina, where?
I'm in Düsseldorf, in the middle of Düsseldorf, and in my apartment, because it's a free day today. It's Fronleichnam, so it's it's in the evening. We are in the evening at 6 o'clock in the evening in Germany now. It was a very sunny, beautiful day, and I was in the forest because it's very good to leave your office sometimes in this times of COVID and just be in nature, and it's beautiful in nature right now.
Yeah, thank you. So it's kind of the Day of the Dead, one could say, in Germany, an appropriate holiday in that time of Corona. Olaf, where are you?
I'm right now at the festival center. I'm in my office because the festival is running now for about 1 week. So I wasn't in the forest, but there's a huge park around the actually quite massive festival main building. But today is like not a low day, but today we only have pre-recorded shows in our digital festival, because we have just started digital, even though we are live festival usually, but in times of Corona, we decided to start as a digital festival.
And the city you're in is it?
The city is the city of Recklinghausen, which is a quite small city within this huge former coal mining and steel plant area, which contains an area of 53 cities. It's called the Ruhr area. And we are in the northern part of it, but it's just like there are huge autobahn ways connecting all these cities, and there are about 5.5 million people living around us.
That whole region could be looked at as a mega city, somehow connected so close. There are no more big forests or fields in between. It's one big city. If an alien spaceship would land, they would have a hard time to know where one city starts and ends. And Stefan, where are you?
Hello world, good evening, hello via evening, hello New York, dear friends. I'm strictly following the stay home rules, and that means at the moment I am in Berlin, and you have this view here outside. It's a rainy, cold day. It's fantastic for staying home and for being creative, and very warm welcome to everyone who joins us in this beautiful day. I'm very delighted to have you around. My place to stay is Berlin, and I'm working home office most of the time. Our festival will be happened in Düsseldorf, the capital of North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany's largest stage with 18 million people living there. That's the highest concentration on population in Germany. And I'm just neighbor to Olaf. It's a kind of 30 kilometers apart where the Ruhr Festspiele are happen. And Theater of the World is a festival which is like a grasshopper jumping through Germany from one federal state to another. So we are just guests in this region for this season. The next edition will be in 23 in Frankfurt, the capital, or not the capital, but the larger city in Hessen in South Germany.
Yeah, that's true. This is the Landeshauptstadt, is the capital of Hessen. You're right. Amazing. So you have Berlin weather. People always wonder how come Germany has so many philosophers, musicians, and composers. The weather is really bad. So you read books and you write books. You know, you listen to music and you make music. It's one of the reasons that makes us very
different. There you got it.
From other places. You know, like in Italy, where you're within half an hour from the beach, wherever you live. Let me tell our audience a little bit about everyone here. Bettina studied in the great Gießen University and the Angewandte Theaterwissenschaft, also with Anje Wirth and Molly Davis, George Tarbury, and she did great work there. She did Beckett work and Marie Duras work, which is very well known at the time. And she was a dramaturg and an executive director of the youth opera department of the Staatsoper, the opera in Stuttgart. And she was the artistic director of a significant dance project, the German dance platform in 2006 at Theater Stuttgart. And she was the head of the independent theater festival FAVORITEN, the favorites, in also the region where she is working now. And she has taught at many, many universities and dance study departments. What a great combination she has found for herself in universities around Germany. And right now, she has an important job. She's supporting arts and culture within the political system of Germany as an artist. She followed, perhaps, was in '69, the student revolution said, a march through institutions. We have to also go into institutions to change them, to provide change, to be part of change as a working artist, a big decision, what she made. And she is the head of theater and dance in the Ministry of Culture and Science at that region of that state of North Rhine-Westphalia. North Rhine-Westphalia would be something like Texas, Florida, or the New York, state of New York in Germany is one of the states there. So this is a very significant, big job where she was able to double under her term there, the funding. Then with us, we have Olaf Kröck. He's the artistic director of the Ruhr Festspiele, the festivals in Recklinghausen we talked about. And he took over the European festival. From the European festival Trans-Europa, he went to the Ruhr Festspiele in 2018, if I have that right here. And he also worked at the Theater Hildesheim, an important theater. Germany has a decentralized theater system because 50, 60 tiny states existed before Napoleon ran over Germany, and they all wanted to be like Versailles in London, and all the little kingdoms had their little theaters, and we somehow were able in Germany to keep them afloat, to have them running, and it's a fantastic system. He was the dramaturg and artistic director of the experimental stage AG, or I don't know how to say it right, at the Lucerne Theater.
Like underground, yes.
Underground, okay. And then he was at the Schauspiel Essen, again in that region, at a very important theater. And then he moved to Schauspielhaus Bochum, which is a legendary stage in Germany for many, many reasons, of directors who have been there, who came out there, worked that opened there. And he was co-director of the International Detroit Project. He was the artistic director of Schauspielhaus Bochum. This is a very big deal. This is like saying you run the public theater in New York City. And he has been a member of the German Academy of the Performing Arts since 2019. Just to remember our American viewers, there is an Academy of the Performing Arts in Germany. Fantastic. And then Stefan is with us, who is running this great theater festival, Theater der Welt. It became obvious in the 70s and 80s that innovations in the world of theater often move faster through festivals, international work, global work that has been seen. So he, like Olaf, is putting together, is collaging, like Robert Rauschenberg, things what he feels is important as a curator, follows his instinct, but also tips from friends and long-standing friendships with artists to show the audiences what is contemporary theater really about, as does the Wiener Festwochen. What are artists working about? What are thinking about? Artists often anticipate the future. We already have a hard time living in the moment. Most probably Bettina and I, we still live somewhere 30 years ago in Gießen, what happened at our universities. So it's hard enough to be in the moment. Artists can do that, like the great Zen masters, but they also anticipate, and we hope they have the right questions for us. And at Theater der Welt is a part of that. He has been the director of the Wiener Festwochen. Oh no, sorry, Stefan was the assistant director at the Volksbühne in Berlin. This is a great, big and important theater. We had Sebastian Kaiser with us. We hope to have Castorp with us also one day. So now the theater that defined the aesthetics of Berlin after the opening of the wall, the most significant, perhaps most copied Staatstheater or city theater. And he has directed a number of productions at the Baracke, where also Ostermeyer started out. It's also a legendary place in the mythological history of German theater. He was at the Omsk Drama Theater. He was in Western Siberia and the GITIS Theatre in Moscow. We just had Kirill Serebrennikov with us on Friday, and he gave us an idea of the contemporary scene in Russia, what is happening also to him and his Gogol Center. So we know how important that part of the world is. He relaunched festivals, the Theaterformen in Hanover and Braunschweig, and he was part of the European Capital of Culture in Tallinn in 2011. And he has translated plays from Russian into German, something we care very much about also at the Segal Center. We translate, produce, and also publish in small editions plays. We are the largest translator of actually Arab plays in English translation, so we know how important that is and how much work goes into that. And he was the chief dramaturg of the Düsseldorfer Schauspielhaus, a very important deal. It is way beyond what's called the literary manager in America. The literary manager in America sometimes helps a bit to rewrite a third act and writes the press releases and works with the writer. But I might say that a dramaturg in Germany is very close to the position of the almost artistic director. Often they are the archival history of that theater they work with. They make real decisions about the identity of this theater and really help, like the Sherpas, they help the mountain climbers to get on the mountains. They have been there before, they know what to do, but they help and support to find the right way or the way that works perhaps the best at the moment in the contemporary sense, what in the moment what we need. And he was also the head of the drama program of the Wiener Festwochen, a very significant, big, leading festival. So we have really, I think, a great collection with us to hear what is going on, what the hell is going on in Germany now, what is going on with all your Festspiele. Maybe Stefan, tell us a little bit, what's happening? We hear you having that big festival and the program is out, but there's no dates, no times are published.
Yeah, the news are I got a date for vaccination next Thursday, which is quite a day I didn't expect is coming that soon. So, and for this I have to go from Berlin to Hamburg because the vaccination in Berlin is quite slow. You might have no imagination how much Germany is a patchwork country, as our federal system is facing many of problems between Berlin, Bavaria, Hamburg, North Rhine-Westphalia. The way to manage the crisis on federal standards has many pluses and many minuses. The pluses are for sure in the arts. We got a different way of support under this system. Festival Theater of the World, or Theater der Welt, this is a brand which is normally not translated, is created in the end of the 70s and had its first edition in 1981. And please allow me to say some words about the history, because the situation in Germany after World War II, as we have two German states, East Germany and West Germany, is quite different to the other European major nations, as they decided after World War II to create huge national festivals with very famous brands now, as we have Edinburgh Festival, Festival d'Avignon, the Holland Festival, Wiener Festwochen, the Vienna Festival. All these are artistic creations in the after-war time, founded in 36, 37, 38. And all these festivals been created to recreate an atmosphere of peace and understanding via the arts in Europe, all across Europe after war. Germany went a completely different way, as the Germans had to struggle with completely different political demands after this. And the Germans obviously couldn't decide to create a so-called national festival, as all the other countries created national festivals. The festival Theater der Welt came up as many interesting things, as a more or less anti-establishment movement and a very unique and single movement from the grassroots by artistic interest of an incredible team around the artistic director of the Hamburg Theater in 1979, as the International Theater Institute gave at that season a title which was called Theater of the Nations. And after the successful inauguration of the Festival Theater of the Nation, which was shifting from country to country at that time, the Germans decided to have their own theater festival from international standards. And so in 1981, the first edition called Theater der Welt, Theater of the World, was happened in Hamburg. And this was a huge success because the introduction of international artists and international aesthetics in the beginning of the 80s in Western Germany was quite a revolution and an enrichment of the existing theater landscape, which was struggling with their redefinition of their national idea. And Western Germany defined itself as a very cosmopolitan international state with liberal constitution and democratic circumstances. I'm an East German, so the situation for me is quite different. I'm the first East German who's taking over that remarkable brand in Western Germany theater history. And that is for me even a more proudness, as I'm allowed to do this in Düsseldorf, which was for long periods the cultural capital of West Germany, from boys to music. This is a place where I could just dream about as the East German by listening radio in the night and listen something from West Germany and what the hell is going on in Düsseldorf. So this is a little bit my very personal introduction to this. Theater der Welt is a festival, as I told you already, a city or an artistic team has to bid for. This is a brand. Theater der Welt is just a brand, and this brand is in the hands of the International Theater Institute of Germany, which is based in Berlin. And the theaters or the cities who wants to have and to make the Festival Theater of the World have to run a competition, a bidding process where they have to propose a concept, how to do it in Frankfurt or how to do it in Berlin. And in this competition process, normally they are fighting 3 or 4 different regions and theaters for this. In this competition process, there is a jury. This is the head team, the artistic members of the International Theater Institute. And in a very late stadium, they deciding we are giving it, as the next edition, we are giving it to Düsseldorf. And the Düsseldorf team won it with an absolutely remarkable and outstanding idea. Düsseldorf is one of the major German cities. They decided in the new century, which has just started in its 20 years, Young decided to have remarkable changes in their inner city structure and architecture. So Düsseldorf was quite destroyed in World War II and was rebuilt after war. And now in the last 10 years, Düsseldorf made an outstanding and exceptional step forward to refigure the inner city landscape and to reopen places. They've been reserved for business and for shopping. They wanted to create a new atmospherical area in the city, which we called a cultural area. And in the end of this process, which Bettina has running through 20 years already as the Minister of Culture, was guiding this. The Düsseldorf Playhouse, Schauspielhaus, which is a remarkable, iconic architecture building, got renovated, and the whole area around this building is refigured as an accessible cultural area. And the idea was to have the festival on the top to reopen this part of the city as a completely new public space in this city.
So the idea is it was many years in the planning. Now it happened to slide into the time of Corona. When is the official opening, or when was it? Or how is? Tell us about it.
Frank, thank you very much. I'm coming back. I have to explain this because this is a remarkable, interesting way how to make festival, and how this movable vehicle, as Theatre of the World, which jumps really from region to region, is an engine for separate regional processes and always blending this with international artistic aesthetical movements. That's a very important point for this festival. The original edition was planned last year, and what I have here in my hands, this is our booklet from last year. We have 190 pages with fantastic artists, companies, and the amount of works we wanted to present is 36 productions from 5 continents. They are involving all continents and involving around about 400 people from all over the world. The running time since its beginning is 18 days. So the last 40 years through, Theatre of the World was happened every 3 years in a different city by 18 days. And as you know all the reasons, the worldwide pandemic came over us, and we decided together with the Minister of Culture that we will not cancel the festival, but we will postpone it on 1 year, as we've been very hopefully that in a year time, everything will change. It changed quite a lot, but not that remarkable yet. So we are about to open on the 17th of June and will run till 4th of July, the remarkable 18 days. And as it looks like at the moment, we will be able to present 26 international productions, and we might have the chance to bring 300 people to Düsseldorf. This is what we have now. And I allowed myself to send our recent, just yesterday, finalized booklet for everyone to read in English language. You are introduced to all these productions. You can read this PDF file, 130 pages. So we lost around about 60 pages, but we did not lost our hope and our effort to bring this festival to Germany.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for the introduction. Of course, there's so much more to say just about this festival. And it's postponed for a year, supposed to open in June. Stefan actually got a call shortly before we started, from his boss, more or less, what can be done, what cannot be done. He said, wait, I have to do this properly. It's in the flux. Nobody also really knows what can happen, how much and how little, but the good sign is there will be, if we understand now, a festival. And a week ago, it was perhaps not so clear. Olaf, thank you for waiting. And but it's all about listening in our talk. So also take your time. Tell us about your Ruhrfestspiele. What is the concept? What is the idea? And how come this is all happening so close to each other?
Yeah, Stefan just mentioned it. Our festival was actually founded at the same time as Avignon Festival, for example. We were founded in 1947. So this is the 75th edition. And it's the oldest festival in Germany and actually one of the oldest in Europe. And there's a very, very special story to be told why this festival was created and was founded. And that was that in 1946, just right after the war, there was a heavy winter in Germany. And due to the fact that all the cities have been destroyed for a reason, also some of the theaters have had huge problems, and especially the theaters in Hamburg, they were so cold and that they were running out of coal to heat them up. So they were driving down with very improvised kind of truck vehicles down here to the Ruhr area where all the coal mines are placed. And so they knocked on the first coal mine that they found. That was here in the city of Recklinghausen. And they asked for coal to heat up the theaters again. And these coal miners, they agreed, even though it wasn't allowed. This was a kind of smuggling due to the fact that the Brits were just controlling everything, which was like the right decision at the time. So they were smuggling the coals for heating up theaters in Hamburg. And in exchange, one summer later, the Hamburg theater people came down here to perform theater in front of these coal miners. And that was the founding moment of the festival. And maybe for a non-German, non-European audience, it might be really interesting who is founding the festival from the very moment till now. One is the city who's giving money for the festival, and the other one is the States Council, which is Bettina is working for it. But the third one is really interesting because it's the German unions who are financing the festival. So all the unions, they have a head organization and they have a certain amount of money. And so they are also giving their money for one arts event. So like a contemporary arts theater festival is found by German unions, which is a very unique situation. So our festival, located in this area of that is just like structured through labor, because this is an area where people are working, where they're working in plants, in huge industries. They are going to see once a year, always in May and June, a contemporary arts festival that lasts for 9 weeks. So our festival is for 9 weeks, and even with the Corona pandemic last year, we've been canceled. But this year we're taking place and it lasts for 9 weeks, and we have about 90 productions each year and like 800 artists coming here. And the average, if we are live festival, the average amount of spectators is between 60 and 80,000 people watching performances. But this year, due to the fact that we are also in a lockdown situation, the pandemic still holds its hands on Germany. I'm not vaccinated so far, as Stefan said. But so that's why we decided to start the festival as a digital festival. So a lot of our productions are just transported into a digital area that we call our digital Ruhrfestspiel theater. But we are just positive because there are some news. The numbers of infections are really going down right now. And so hopefully we have the chance within 2 weeks' time also to open our spaces for a live audience.
So let me get that right. You postponed it for a year. You didn't do something last year.
Yes.
You will have about 9 weeks of a festival. Officially, it has started.
Yeah,
You cannot bring the theater artists in. You do a digital version. You use the money. You pay the theater artists, but you're on standby from a call from Bettina, the ministry, or someone else to say, okay, and then they would come in and play. Do I get that right?
Yeah, in general, that's right. Yes, we are paying the artists. Also, those artists who are just due to the fact that we had to cancel a live production, they also receive some money. So because we have had contracts with them, we wanted them to have them here. And just from yesterday on, we know now how this perspective of opening up theater venues could take place. There's a very specific way of opening up. We should start with open air productions, and later on we might also have the chance to open indoor venues. So hopefully till the end of the festival, which ends on the 20th of June, we also have real people, real audience, spectators and artists in the building. But the opening of the festival, which was on the 2nd of May, was opened by the great Japanese actor Yoshi Ueda, who is from the Peter Brook ensemble, who is now 87 years old. He was live at our building to perform in front of cameras, and we streamed it live onto our festival platform.
Incredible. I think to both of you, we will come back to that idea of presenting the rules and how to deal with the digital and the screens. But now we come to Bettina. Bettina, listening to your colleagues, what comes to your mind?
First of all, I want to thank you. I didn't do this in the beginning. I think it's amazing what you do, having 250 artists, you said, in this last year, starting in March and opening a window into many global countries and giving the opportunity to have this exchange. I think it's a fantastic idea. And so it's really nice to have us here in this Zoom. I always think this region in North Rhine-Westphalia, it's probably the most dense theater landscape we have around the world. So there's like 25 big city theaters. There's an incredible independent scene. There's many production houses which work in a very experimental way, like the Dance House in Düsseldorf or the Pakt Zollverein on the UNESCO World Heritage Zollverein, which is the former mining area. And there is festivals like Ruhrfestspiele, and today we open also Stücke, which might be interesting also for some in the audience now. It's a festival on new theater texts. This will open now at 7 o'clock. So there are people like René Polesch or Friede Janilek, many great writers, dramatists got the big prizes there. So and we have today the opening of Berliner Theatertreffen. So this period of May, June is a period of a lot of festivals, and I have to say the doubling of the theater budget was of course done by the government, and I think it's very good because it gave a lot of strength, and it's in the same time very hard because now since 1 year, in the same moment you give the strength, we renovated the Schauspielhaus in Düsseldorf, and then everybody was running against a wall of beton, and since then, everybody is working very much. I think we have a fantastic situation because there's really a lot of financial support for artists. Only in North Rhine-Westphalia, we had around 200 million euro to give funding to independent artists for fellowships. And there's a lot of...
The 200 million are special funding or part of a budget?
Yeah, it's a special. You get around like 7,000 euro, but you're quite free to do what you want to do artistically, because we realized one thing is the institutions, which are quite well protected in Germany, also in these times, but it's a very difficult situation for artists to work independently. So this was one of the first fields where the government really put energy and money to help artists which are not connected to an institution. But I always think it's like an incredible, beautiful garden. But of course, the situation is quite hard, and we are right now in between like two areas, because there was a very hard lockdown for the last 4 weeks to get the numbers of infections down, and they are getting quite well down now because you also have the vaccination and so on. But the theaters are not able to open again, and there's very different developments now in Germany. Today the opera in Munich will perform for the first time. And also when you look at Europe, it's very different. Luxembourg is performing, Paris is opening on the 19th, Théâtre de la Ville. So Europe has very different rules. And I think, like Stefan said, there's a lot of plus and a lot of also some problems, but I think there is more plus because the support for culture is really strong in this time. I think it's just an amazing garden, and when you think of a festival like this mythos of Ruhrfestspiele, the funding mythos is really amazing. This exchange, and it's still a festival which is attracting a lot of very different people, not like a festival maybe in Berlin or in Munich or maybe even in Frankfurt, but it's very, very different people that are coming, young people. I mean, you don't have the classical worker anymore. There is a big transformation, of course, in the area. And there is also a use of this old industrial architectures. North Rhine-Westphalia is quite famous for. Like, we have the next festival, Ruhr Triennale, which is taking place in summer, which is especially using this beautiful old industrial areas. And I mean, I just realized when Stefan was telling the story of Theater der Welt, when we were studying in Gießen in '85, that was my first Theater der Welt. And it was really like an earthquake. So I saw Jan Fabre for the first time. I saw Need Company, which was called Epigonen. And I saw many other performances. And I think it was so much opening my mind for the international cosmos which was there, because after World War II, which is amazing, is the urgence of people reopening the theaters. Like Olaf was describing this in '46, they made this effort to reopen the theaters in Hamburg. In '46, they were reopening the theaters in Duisburg and many of the industrial areas here. And so I hope this urgence will also be there. But it was this system in Germany after the Second World War was in a way very much also dedicated to the ensemble, to German theater, and Theater der Nationen and Theater of Nations and Theater der Welt. And also the Ruhrfestspiele, which had always this European idea. They were like very important windows to know what's going on. You could see Japanese theater from Bali and from China and from South America. So like this festival which was supposed to take place in 22 and which in 2020, which will now be in 21. And we hope it can open and there will be public performances, live performances. It's bringing fantastic performances, for example, from Chile with Calderón or with Malen, which is it's a performance of Mapuche women, and people are coming from Nigeria, from Argentina. So normally it's a fantastic situation to discover what you don't know and to get curious for all these beautiful artists. And we have a fantastic situation also because we have an open air stage on the place in front of the theater, which is constructed by Raumlabor. So I think especially in this situation where we still don't know when we can open the theaters, it's great to have an extra space and to have this outdoor stage, which is a very beautiful one.
Almost going back to the roots of kind of Greek outdoor theater. If there's something we have to reinvent. I also want to
maybe
the great Pina Bausch dance company, the Tanztheater, comes from that region, was hosted in Wuppertal there. I mean, the Bochum Theater with Peimann and also early George Tabori. So this structure really supported incredibly the artist. And I would like to talk later on also, what is the time of Corona perhaps will do? Is it something like after World War II? Is there something new taking place? Before, I would like to go back to Stefan and Olaf, and maybe we start with Olaf again. Presenting live work, which is not possible, it might be but not, and the digital representation. How do you guys deal with it? What did you learn? Stefan, you wanted to say something, or we start with Olaf?
Okay. Yeah. I wanted just to give a very 2 minutes lecture how does it work in Germany, just to let the Americans understand how it is, just to get a feeling. We are a federal country of 16 states, and each state has specific rules, what is happen when, and everything works under an index. This is a number which contains a meridian regarding the last 7 days and how many infections came through, or new infections came on 100,000 people. That's the index. And the magic number in the middle of this is the index number 100. So if the index number is going below 100, that means less than 100 new infections on 100,000 people, citizens, then there is a chain of things that are allowed to us to do. So we are sitting in front of the snake and looking on this number, as this is at the moment in Düsseldorf at 105, and as only we going under this 105 and we reaching 99 for a period of 5 days, then we are allowed to make art in public spaces. Then restaurants are allowed to reopen. And this is all about these numbers. And we have a federal law which covers above 100, and as only 100 is reached, every region is allowed to make single regulations on or off, just to explain this to you. So for the, and you will, that's the crazy thing, Frank. For Olaf, who is 30 kilometers far from us in Gelsenkirchen, if they are not reaching this number, they have different rules to follow as the city of Düsseldorf. We might reach it or we don't reach it. And we have a patchwork of very varied things you can do, just 10 kilometers as you crossing a city border or a state border, which is a quite complex undertaking. The Düsseldorfians are very disciplined, so I'm very hopeful looking for the day to be reaching 100. It seems to be this will become next Tuesday. And so that was it. So now I'm telling you about the good thing.
Yeah, let's ask Olaf,
yeah.
Ask him first. The idea, and I think this is important what Stefan said, as a meta rule, before anything can be decided, is that number 100. So you have 101 patients, you cannot open, you have 99. In fact, you can, incredible, like the old German states that had different currencies, there are again different rules. It's a big discussion in Germany about it, but Olaf, the idea of the digital, how do you and the Ruhrfestspiele, how did you decide to do it? What did you ask from the artists, and what experience did you make? Is it working? Is it not working? Do you like it?
A lot of questions. Maybe the first step was that we decided to have 2 festivals. We have a real life festival when it's possible, and we have a digital festival if it's not possible. So it's not the same, it's the same productions, but it's not the same amount of productions. And then we started discussing with the artists who is like willing or interested in transforming their productions into a digital version. And there have been several artists who said, no, my production is a live show. I want to show it in live. So one of them was the Greek choreographer Dimitris Papaioannou, who within the last 3 years, The Great Tamer was a very well-received show throughout all the world. And there's a new show called Transverse Orientation, who should have live world premiere at our festival. But due to the fact that it's only a live show and we cannot show it, we had to cancel. So the world premiere is now postponed to Lyon. So congratulations to Lyon. They will have a live show because they're in France and their opening situations are different than ours. But others decided, and then we decided for several kind of systems that some of them, we really bring them here within our theater. So they're really a travel here. And we have a setup with cameras and like film crews, like people who are professionals in filming art, filming theater. And then it's recorded or it's live streamed on a platform. What I learned is a lot of stuff. I learned, first of all, how to film a theater show that it's interesting to watch, because it's not just one camera you put up in the room. You need 5, 6, 7, maybe you need a live direction, you need a live cutter. And so I was confronted with a lot of technology that I didn't know before. I know that it's existing, but I'm a theater person and not a film person. So there was an encounter with, luckily, very professional and open-minded film people who were interested in helping us out. But the next step was what is the platform you're streaming it on? So it's not YouTube or Vimeo. So we had to find a German platform or European platform, and we had to integrate it somehow in our own digital world. And therefore we suddenly were confronted with reprogramming our webpage. We had to program an own, like a digital theater platform on which the stream took place. And then we also decided that some of the shows are behind a paywall, that you have to pay, that you buy a ticket for it. The ticket price is far lower than the live ticket price, but it is a paywall.
How much?
So suddenly, it's 15 euro, and so it's like 17 bucks or something. And there's also a reduction fee, but you have to choose. And suddenly we've been busy for a long time with a quite small but very ambitious team within my festival team. We're only busy with like creating an own platform on which we can include all the stuff, where you stream, where you see it, where you buy a ticket, and then it needs to work. And as Stefan told us, there are some things that didn't work well in the first place. Now we improve them. So while we are doing a festival, we are learning technology stuff that I've never been confronted with. And we have people here, some of them but decided to stay in their places and stream it from there, or pre-record it and send it to us. But the maybe best encounter that we have, because all the theaters have the same problem right now. So we decided that every encounter that we have, if we have an artist talk or something, we do it on our main stage, and we would put the cameras on that position where usually the actor is placed. So we film the huge empty theater venue, where you see that usually you as a spectator would sit there in these red chairs, but you can't because due to Corona. And so we had some artist talks connected to a theater in Berlin, for example, or in Greece, where they did the same thing in their empty theaters. So we were sitting all on our stages, and you saw the empty stages, the empty auditorium, and we were talking with each other after we've seen a show on this digital platform. So we have a festival, we have arts, we have a social distancing version of a theater production, and we have artists who can do their art and they get paid, and we have an audience. And so somehow, even though it is a very new step for us, it is also very, very interesting, because we also figure out new forms of doing arts. We have the Zoom game, for example. We have these interactive kind of stuff. So we're exploring a lot of stuff that would never have happened without Corona, because then we would have just simply be a live festival with 220 performances in 9 weeks.
Incredible. So incredible innovation that are taking place by force. And Stefan, how is it going in your festival? What are you thinking? What are you doing? What are your decisions?
Yeah, we are in a little bit different situation as Olaf, because my obligation was the invitation to the artists of last year, and I had to keep this obligation on this same artist. So I couldn't say you are uninvited and I'm making a new festival next season. So my process in this last year, which took at least really 12 months, is the same as Olaf's, as I spent probably months and weeks on Zoom, hopping from Argentina to Chile to South Africa to Tanzania to Japan. And I visited nearly every one of our artists at home. in his office, on his balcony, in his kitchen, and it took me an incredible journey through all these homes of all our artists to think about how to transform the piece of art which was created already into a possible piece of art we can bring under these or that circumstances. We created 3 versions of a festival, as we decided, first of all, we are planning to invite everyone and to bring the people to Germany. In a second way, we decided, let's review what is existing material on these groups. We might create so-called hybrid forms of interaction with our audience. And at least we are running the same system as Olaf. We equipping our main venues like theater studios. And we are ready to create artistically high quality streams or transmissions that are allowing our audience to have an artistic experience and not just watching something which is probably dead. And these are huge challenges, as we, for instance, had planned co-productions with Canadian and South African artists to collaborate with German companies. What we created and what was amazingly new for me was so-called online directing, as we had many artists in Canada, and we prepared a production for 20 young people, a contemporary play written by Jordan Tannehill, a young Canadian playwright. And we wanted to invite a Canadian team of artists to work with young Germans in Düsseldorf, which is probably obviously not possible. What we did, we find a shadow team in Germany with young German directors who want to learn from Canadian artists. And we created 2 teams, the Canadian team sitting in Toronto and Montreal, and the German team, they are ready in Düsseldorf, because rehearsal work is allowed. So theaters are not allowed to play for public, but they are allowed to rehearse. And we brought into move a very unbelievable, interesting process, which breaks the rule of the director is the king, as the director is sitting in Canada and following some rehearsals made by a German team and just giving advices, and he has to trust the German team, what they are doing, and they're doing right. So this new way of shared knowledge and shared responsibility brought us 2 amazingly fruitful productions. They never ever have seen the world born. And we will bring these 2 productions. They're nearly ready to be performed in Germany, in Düsseldorf, directed from outside. This was an unbelievable process with a lot of obstacles and completely different division of power, because if the Canadian director says, I want to have this like that, the German easy could say, no, we will do it this way, trust us. And he has no chance to interfere on this. And that was quite absolutely amazing. And I would tell you the most fruitful result. This was a collaboration we initiated with Porte-Parole from Montreal and the Munich Kammerspiele, a very famous theater in Munich. This is about a documentary play where the Canadians insisted that an old person in the play will be played by an old actor, and a woman will be played by a woman, and so on and so on. And Munich Kammerspiele said, no, we want to make it different. The old women in the play will be played by our youngest artist, and the black lady in the play will be played by a young white lady. And this mixture of characters and the written characters and the actors they're fulfilling enriched this play a lot, what the Canadian artists did not expect it at all. They couldn't trust in this. They can't be, an elder woman has to be played by an elder woman. And our colleagues said, no, we're doing it with a young woman. And this was an incredible artistic process which went online in an exchange. So, and we'll finish, I could talk hours on this, and we'll finish at this
What's
point.
happening with your all the plays you invited, they're already created, so there are no commissions, most more or less. or some of them, but so you are preparing to have them on stages.
We are even in a more interesting situation, as the last year all festivals have been cancelled. We took over some heritage from other festivals. They've been cancelled. So the Ministry of Culture, and there is sitting my boss Bettina here, and I like to say it publicly in front of her, we are very grateful to the ministry, as they allowed us to take over a potential, high aesthetically very important potentially projects, to take them over to our festival. So we got an extra funding for this, and we delivered our production body to make this possible. One of these amazing things we've been allowed to take over is an installation on a public space, which is called the Third Space. And this is an installation in a 500 square meter place made by a Berlin architectural team, which is called Raumlabor Berlin. And this is a quite interesting thing. We never could afford this. This is a cost of money to create it, to build it up, to design it. And we got this as a gift. And this gift meant to us that we have an open air stage in front of our theater, which is an additional venue for our festival to make productions happen. They normally had to be in-house, but we now can do them outdoors. And now I'm coming to your real question. I invited a beautiful opera production from Indonesia, which is called The Planet, made by Gerin Nengguro, and with a 47-head women choir from Kupang. This is on East Timor. The Indonesians are allowed to travel to Germany, but what the Indonesians are not allowed is singing in indoor spaces. This is one of the worst things you can do. This is strictly forbidden. You are not allowed to make opera. You might have no idea how, with sweat and tears, I met this artist via Zoom, and I said, Garin, can you imagine to transform or to transfer your opera from an opera house indoor to an open air concert opera? And it took even 2 seconds. He said, yes, this was my original idea. I wanted to have a street procession. And for the Melbourne Festival, I was obliged to put my performance into an opera house. And I'm so happy you're offering me to bring this opera back on street. So this is Festival Maker's Life. I'm finished now. I can tell you the next 14 hours.
How many seats? This space you created, how many seats are the outdoor theater?
We have a flexible tribune for 500 people, and we will watch very carefully the index number. As the index number is going below 50, we even allowed to sit very close. If we are reaching 70 or 80, this tribune will be for 300 people, and they are seated, the audience are seated in distance by 1.50 meters each to other, and we have to follow the rules with mask and testing before entering this place. So that's still open, and we created an incredible system for selling tickets, as we gave each seat one number. And if we are selling 300 tickets and the day before the performance the index changes, we can add easily another 150 tickets in the salary in the evening box office. So this, you see, as an artistic director, you are more or less a businessman. You're busy with all these regulations, and that's quite a new job. I can just answer Olaf, I learned so many new things in this job, and how theater can work as an interactive meeting in the internet. There are many things, there are more than just Zoom meetings possible.
Incredible, and we will see how much stays. But that outdoor structure in 30 years from now, people will say, well, there was the time of Corona, they built this, and now we have it. Who knows what will happen? Bettina, you work for the ministry, and in general, politicians have to make value judges. We had Jean-Luc Nancy here, the philosopher, who said, you know, the question now is, how much is the value of life? Because we all know it has a value, but you know, when 100 people, 50, when do we take risk or not? So what is the value of the arts within that government? Why do they think, you know, this is so important, that these massive amounts, or you know, of resources, at least to American or New York proportions, why is that important that the region says we do this?
I think it's very clear that it's an investment into the intelligence of people and into the being ready to, or being prepared for unknown things, because that's what art is about very much. That you develop things you don't know, and you get in touch with worlds, ideas, text, images, sounds, people you don't know. It's I think for me, in art is very much meeting the what is strange for you. That's also why these. I mean, you have here Olaf and Stefan, which are both so positive and so with so much energy in a situation which is also in Germany quite difficult, and we don't know exactly what will happen in the next 2 or 4 weeks. It's not clear. There will be new rules on Saturday, and we are all struggling to have the theaters open, but it's really an in-between situation. But I think the value of the arts is you can talk to so many different people now. When you're on the market buying your apple, or you go to have a coffee, and everybody will say, oh, I'm so hungry for going into a museum. It was the birthday, the 100th birthday of Joseph Beuys yesterday, and there's beautiful exhibitions. There's a beautiful exhibition on Christoph Schlingensief in the museum in Düsseldorf, and there's so much things you could see, and that will nourish your brain. And I think this period of 1 year where many things were just forbidden and public life was not possible, or it was very restricted, is many people really suffer from this, and also very exhausted. But I have to say, I saw a beautiful, or great, not beautiful, work of Lia Rodriguez in a stream in Hau in Hebel am Ufer, and you just told about the situation in India. So the situation in India or Brazil or in many other countries is so difficult for artists. So I think we can, and I'm very happy that Stefan and Olaf go with such an energy to realize the festivals in between 4 versions. It was quite clear that not like in 2020, the festivals will be cancelled, but it's still not clear if it's analog, if it's hybrid, if it's digital, and it's this kind of mixed everyday life. But this has also to do, and I think people really learn a lot. We always say we jump into digital life, but it's like this. But I think we realize also that we really all have to prepare for the transformation we are faced by the development of artificial intelligence and the change of the working world. And so I think the arts are so important to prepare the ground for people to get courage to not be stuck to what has been behind us, because there was a big problem. So many people say, no, let's not go back to normal, because normal was the problem. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a big jump right now in the whole questions of how we deal with nature, how we deal with the climate exchange, and all this digital transformation and these questions on climate, they get together. How will artists travel in future? I mean, there was so much global traveling, and I think this will not be possible in a way, but still we want to produce together and we want to have this exchange. So I think we have to invent new forms of collaboration and of staying in touch with many, many countries, from Indonesia to Japan, from Russia to Chile. we don't want to lose this, but it will change, I'm sure. And so I think for this, arts can give a lot of inspiration to people who are in economy, to people who are in the technical field, because it's opening the brain, and art has always been very much related to science and to the development of the new society. And we have to work on social justice. It's the global situation is really there's so many problems we don't face here in Germany, but they are there. And I think many people think about this and how this world will transform. So I think, and for this, the festivals are a very important reflection space that people need to get also along with the experience that they have made in the pandemic. That's why I think it's important. And I think the situation, what I know about New York is really terrible, that so many things stopped, that so many people got their jobs canceled. In the same time, there's no jobs in restaurants or cafes. I know when Stefan was talking about the young lady playing the old lady, I thought of the Wusse group. I don't know how I also saw them, I think, in Theater der Welt, and Jonas was playing Irina in Drei Schwestern of Chekhov, Brace Up. So there's so fantastic artists in New York, and what I hear from even the big museums and from BAM, MoMA, it's so difficult right now. So I really hope I heard that theaters will open now again also. So I really hope that the arts get a lot of space, and when we are slowly going back to a more public life.
Situation is devastating. I think Met opera singers haven't been paid since last March, unimaginable. Because ministries like yours, your position, it doesn't exist. It will be incredibly hard. The mayor just said, oh, most probably Broadway will open in September. Nobody really knows. They cannot play for 30, 40, 50%, 60%. It's highly commercial theater. So there's so many questions here. It's stunning, and things have to change. Question for Olaf and Stefan, maybe Stefan this time. You go first. Is something changing between presenters, the theaters, and the audiences? Will this be a radical change? Is this something, a moment like after World War II, after Corona, something is different?
In this or that case, I feel there is starting point for development of a new form of art, which is really driven by digital technique and new ways of interaction. Theater remains theater. It is not changing. People are demanding to sit near each to other, with uncommon each to other people. They want to experience sweat and breath and tears and all this together. But the win in this is there are remarkable new experiments on online art, which will find its way. This will be maybe a very unique, separate way. The hours to sit in front of a monitor are not that easy to come over. And I think when summer is coming, we will leave all these monitors, hopefully very quick. I'm very optimistic on this. There is coming a new form of art and will be developed. I have seen remarkable experiments where I felt introduced into a different world by just taking part in an interaction. We have an Israeli company, it's called Puppet Cinema. They're working with puppets and different worlds. They are bringing us in different layers. You will find this in the booklet. It's called The Big Bang, der Urknall. Outstanding. I have never ever seen that kind of artistic approach. I'm very happy to have this now in the program. But in common, theater will remain theater. This is, and it will become even more value because of that experience of loss. That's my conclusion on that.
I think some of the things are saying theater will stay theater, and I think we will have roaring 20s, late 20s after the pandemic somehow not disappeared, but maybe that we can get to public life. And as Stefan said, I'm sure that Broadway will be very vivid again, and all the museums will be full of people again. So that's what we experienced. We have sold tickets for a festival, for a live festival, where everybody who bought a ticket knew it might not take place. So we have several shows which are sold out already, even though we do not know whether we can perform them live. And at the same time, we have people who want to see the digital streams, and we are connected now more to the world than before, because usually you have to come to our place, you have to come to Recklinghausen to see what we are doing here, or you have to go to Avignon, or you have to go to Edinburgh or Vienna or wherever. But this time you also have a chance to connect. Tomorrow night, German time, we will have like a first digital premiere of Sacre by the new circus company Circa from Australia, who have decided not to travel around the world and stay in Australia. But due to the no COVID strategy of Australia, everything is open. So there they can perform, but they cannot while they're here. So we will have a stream of their brand new show as the first ones who are streaming it online, and we will have artist talks afterwards, and the artistic director has to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning Australian time to get to with us in German time at late evening 11 o'clock. These are new experiences for a theater festival. We encounter, we keep on meeting each other, we keep on exchanging our art, but now through a digital version. And I hope that some of the stuff sticks with us. Maybe the more clever, the more intelligent stuff, maybe hopefully more the stuff that we developed from the very first moment to be digital or to be streamed. Some of the stuff that we are streaming now wasn't meant to be online, but now we are doing it because therefore we have a chance to present it. And on the same time, I'm very sure and very convinced that we will have a very vivid theater life within the next years again, that brings up new forms and encounters.
Who are artists you feel? I mean, Stefan mentioned the Israeli company. Maybe you could give us, because we so far away, we don't see enough here. It's very isolated, and that's why we hope to create a 2023 festival, and we need your help. So to say, maybe New York will come together and create something like a festival that might be close to what you guys are doing and the tradition you carry on. But what are artists you feel at the moment they are of interest? Who are artists we say what they are doing is of interest, or you inviting, but who also maybe deal with this time and with the digital real, we all the moving.
I just give a very just one single example, which is an Indian artist, because you've had a chat with India yesterday, but who lives. His name is Abhishek Tapar, and he lives in Holland. So he has moved to Europe, but he tries to within his work, he tries to bring us together with his Indian heritage. He's in his early 30s, and he connects you through food. Always in his productions, you have to eat something, and then he tells stories about that specific food. And it is very radical, because he brings you into a very cozy situation where you feel comfortable, and then he opens up to a huge political field, to what's taking place right now in India, what's taking right now with all these hyper-nationalistic, Hindu-focused politics of the actual government. And the interesting with Abhishek Tapar is that now he is, for the first time, he tries to transform this into a Zoom show, because he cannot do it live with our audience. Usually you have to be live with him cooking, eating, and so forth. And now he even tries to transport it into some, and then you have to cook it yourself to taste it. Because so this is somehow innovative in that way, because he has a cultural encounter between his Indian heritage and living in Europe, but he tries to open it to a world, to transport something that is important to him. Even though it's a small work, it's not like 50 people on stage, it's just one person.
Bettina, what artwork that inspires you? Say, yes, that's why I do the job. But who do you follow? Who do you think this work is meaningful at the moment? In the last year, what you have seen?
Your microphone is off, Bettina.
I mean, in the last year, I could almost see nothing. I saw there was no theater. There was a very short period. There were some performances in June, and there was a short period in September, October, where the theaters were open, and there was like 1/3 of the audience where people could sit. Very strict rules. You couldn't have a glass of wine. There are no breaks. So there was almost nothing. I saw here in Düsseldorf the premiere of Dennis Volpi, who just started with the new ballet company, very quite young director of the company, very young company. The youngest was 18 on the first premiere, and they had to do things like dance the premiere 2 times, one after the other, because they could only have 200 people in a space with around normally 1,000 people. So there was not much to see. I saw one rehearsal of Richard Segal in Wuppertal with Anish Kapoor. It was just a rehearsal. It should come out in March. No way. We had planned a big festival for November in Wuppertal, because we are preparing, which is great, to have the Pina Bausch Center in the old Schauspielhaus in Wuppertal, which has to be renovated, and there will be an extra building. That's a huge project we have. This will be the first center in Germany, at least maybe in the world, which is dedicated to a choreographer. We don't have this until now. And this was supposed to be a big meet, and of course Pina is one of the artists I'm still very fond of, and they danced Das Schiff, but it couldn't be public. There was also a kind of streaming, because in November there was a total lockdown. And so I kind of feel a distance to the arts. In the beginning of the lockdown, I was in New Zealand. I just decided to visit my son in March. So I met Lenin Pontifazio and Peter Sellers was in Auckland, but this was only 1 week. And then also in New Zealand, there was a lockdown. So yeah, it's really rare. And I mean, of course, Joseph Beuys, in a way, he was more important for me than many theater artists in the beginning. I think he was so important for many people working with performance and dance, because my main issue is on dance. And there is, of course, a couple of people I mentioned Wooster Group. I think it's one of the most interesting companies, or people. It's some kind. I didn't see work of Jan Fabre. And Johann Simons is doing a great work in Bochum with the company. They also do quite a lot of streaming in the Schauspielhaus, and have a lot of good artists. And the Düsseldorfer Schauspielhaus is, Bob Wilson is right now working here in Düsseldorf in the Schauspielhaus. I mean, you know him very well. And he's preparing a production. Maybe Stefan knows when it will come out. I think it's only in autumn that it will come out. But yeah, so there is a lot of great, and there's many young artists which are really interesting, and a generation of artists developing different forms of cooperation. And there's a generation which is also, again, more political in their artistic work, I think, which is very good. It's a funny question in this, because we all feel like in a vacuum. Of course, you see some streams, but I think we all really miss so much to have live performances. I mean, there was one of the last things actually I saw. I initiated a big project in the framing of Bauhaus, 100 years of Bauhaus in 2019 with Billy Forsythe and with Anne-Theresa de Keersmaker. And there was also always tandems of museums and dance houses. So the Volkwang Museum was working with Billy Forsythe and Pakt Zollverein, and Anne-Theresa was working in Düsseldorf in the Kunstsammlung and in Tanzhaus, and people like Trudel Harrell and Nick Maus were working in Museum Ludwig and in the university in Cologne. And then Anne-Theresa, the Kerstmaker, and Rosas that was actually one of the last things I saw in, I think it's September. They were working in the Columba Museum in Köln, which is an amazing, beautiful building of Zumthor, of the architect. And they were performing all over this museum, which was almost empty. Anne-Theresa was just curating some works in it. And this was, for sure, her work is one of the most important works for me and also to follow.
So works
just to mention some people.
Works on screen, sun outside, things are changing in galleries, the white box, black box. So maybe again to Olaf.
Yeah, but I think it's just to add this. I think it's not a question of white box and black box. I think when museums decide for this kind of work, they have to also really to decide to put choreography as the masterpiece of visual art in a way. And that's, I think, what we managed in 2019, because you all know how much in Bauhaus the arts were mixing. And in a way, in our world, it's all called interdisciplinary, but the structures are still quite separate. And so it is a big difference if you just make a little performance in a museum, or this, Anne-Theresa was here in Düsseldorf. They really had a huge space where 4 dancers changing were working for 10 days. And there were 10,000 people in this 10 days looking at Phase with the music of Steve Reich, and people coming again and again. So this was a really beautiful situation. And also in Columba, they really could live in, I remember Teatro di Parma a long time ago, they were saying you have to, in a way, to live on stage. And this was really like living in this museum and taking this space, and the audience was being part of the space. And I think this can maybe also be a new question to the future, how we create common spaces which are less separated.
That's very important. This is a model that somehow worked. I saw the travail here in New York. But to Stefan and Olaf, who should we pay attention to globally, if you can say?
I just wanted to add something to Bettina's beautiful description, as which was for me a remarkable encounter with internet, was the the Museum of Modern Art of the 20th Century, called K20 in Düsseldorf, made a huge presentation of Anna-Maria Kerstmaker's work in the context of Bauhaus and this frame. And she was invited for an interview to an audience space, which is a very academic one. It's a wooden space inside the K20 for around about 300 people. And it is a very academic setting. And they put 2 little chairs in front on this tiny little stage, and everyone expected that there are sitting 2 very little women talking by microphone each to other. In the very last moment, Kerstmaker couldn't come from New York, and it was a huge problem how we can do it and what the hell is going on. And then they decided to bring her via live stream on a 6x4 meter screen. And the performative moment on this event was just incredible, because it was not as expected that I'm looking down 60 meters on 2 size people, but there is a Kerstmaker sitting and next to her desk and celebrating her interview onwards to me, to audience, interviewed by a very beautiful lady sitting on this tiny little chair down and talking to her. This was a performance in itself on such an incredible aesthetical creation, just made out of this mistake that, or problem that no one can fly from New York to Europe. So there are many of these nice details we can learn from. I attended last September an incredible meeting which is called ADAM, and this is a highly top secret meeting of young Asian artists, which is they're belonging in Taipei to the Taiwanese Center of the Art. What I learned from these young people making a 2 weeks conference and seminar just by handling their mobile devices and making walks through cities, connecting people, interacting by discovering spaces, adding text into this. Never seen this before. Incredible, unbelievable. I'm jealous. I'm an old-fashioned, boring person. I'm delighted by these young people, how creative they are dealing with this situation. So there are many of good things to come. I didn't answer your question, because but I'm inspired from this very much.
Yeah, that's true. What's inspired from that?
Very inspiring, very inspiring. As they are living in a completely different dimension, as the mobile device they grew up with is a completely different part of their nature of communication. You know, I was born, we had black and white TV, and in 1968, I remember a color TV came to the world. What came up in my life, even my mother learned to work with a mobile device. But this is a generation, they're having this already in a different, deeper layer in their everyday behavior, which I'm not will reach. I'm enjoying my 53rd year of life. But it is interesting how it works, and it inspires me in every sense. I can't handle it, but I'm following it.
Mm.
But in terms of content, to be honest, I think the inner politics of the United States throughout the last year have been really inspiring also for artists abroad here in Europe. Because as I see it, the empowerment that been brought up with the Black Lives Matter movement really swapped over to the European continent. And the idea of empowerment and confronting a majority society within Europe with people of other experiences, that we do not have any kind of ideas about our own privileges as a white male person in a position of something. That was also really inspiring for our curational view on arts, on artists, on female artists, artists of the southern hemisphere, that was really astonishing for us that the whole election process, the whole process of change of power was one of the biggest democracies in the world. The shaking of that, the instability that has been shown suddenly, the massive lying, the massive destructional energy of a process that we all perceived as this is the free world, and suddenly we thought maybe it's not. That was really also in that term inspiring, because it showed such a huge new energy of protesting and going against something. And yes, really to pinpoint it, I think the Black Lives Matter movement was also for a European art situation inspiring, and it came from some area that I didn't expect it so far. Because before that we were all focusing on Asia, on Africa, and suddenly it was the US. And yeah, I'm sure that a lot of artists, even in Europe, they got a lot of energy from what happened with the last year in your country.
Amazing, yeah. I think it is a lot about energy. I think theater, the atmosphere in the city. I mean, the beginning of the warfare, there was an exchange of energy, an energy of call, and an energy of performance. The idea of a voice, who also was in Düsseldorf in that region, the idea of stored energy, how you use it, how it's released, that it keeps us alive. And theater has shown that, as you all pointed out, the major festivals in Europe came out of after a dark period, and it brought change for the better, and global view that it brought, the idea of the imagination. Edouard Glissant, the great writer here from the Caribbean, who also taught at CUNY studies, so much what is wrong is a failure of imagination. You cannot imagine a job normally in the coal mines could be as good as, working in a restaurant or running a place or being part of a park service. the idea of homophobia, of racism, violence against women, the wrong imaginations. And theater really can help, as you pointed out, and as Bettina pointed out. And this is why I think the work of festivals, it's so important. It travels faster, it makes a point of a new artist, and also has an impact in that idea of a Festspiele. And also congratulations to Thomas Oberender for opening the Berlin Festspiele again. It's also not an easy thing to do. And I think also his festival, the Down to Earth, to say, can we do work outside with no electricity, like really radically asking questions. Why do we have an exhibition about climate change, but it's climate controlled? And if we don't change, what else will change? So these are so many questions. And as you all said, we could talk so much longer. Maybe we also check in the fall and see how did it go? What did you learn? And how did it? And really, we need our help here. There is no big major festival in North America. It's shocking. There was, BAM who brought this out on the season. The great Next Wave Festival, Lincoln Center Festival was closed down after some controversies, or perhaps the people in charge thought it's no longer important to show theater from around the world. We do not have a festival like this. It's shameful, but perhaps this time will help us to create something. And we need that dialogue. We need your help. And as you said, what happens here in the US also has an influence. And it was all very, very, very significant what you talked about. It might all be obvious and clear to you in Germany and in Europe, but in the context where we listen from now, it is radically different. It's also a model to look up to, and we would like to thank you all for the big contribution you make towards global theater in general, to keep the energies flowing. Bettina, for helping out, making things happen in that part issues artistic creation, that she supports that structure, and for Stefan and Theater der Welt, and for Olaf with the Ruhrfestspiele. These are significant, symbolic representations that are imaginary, but also real for the moment. And what is real in that moment can also be real in life. That's why theater gets censored. Abhishek, who from India yesterday, who's been up for 5 nights in a row trying to connect. He's a writer and playwright as a volunteer to connect people to oxygen machines. He said, my plays get censored in India, and so it must do something. TV and film it goes on, but government doesn't like my place in a tiny little space, so it has an effect. And so you're working for that in a good way. So really, thank you all. Thank you for taking time to join us. You're in the middle of festivals, in the middle of preparing after long days, and one more Zoom meeting for you, but this was really enlightening. It makes me think, and it's also a push in the arm to go and see if there is a way to create something like a festival here in New York City, and what it would take, and talking about it, observing sometimes helps also to create realities. So we will see what will happen. Thanks for HowlRound again for hosting us. It's such an important venue. And I hope that we will continue the conversation, and that we hear more, and we will exchange ideas and contribute to that global world. The problems we have, as Bettina said, the climate change problems, the political problems, problems of democracy, they are global problems, and they can only be solved locally, but also globally. We need to think in that terms, and your festivals are a reminder of it. Thank you all, and I hope to all see you again, join you one day in New York City. Here's theaterderwelt.de. Look it up, go to the festival program. Lots of it is free, streamings are free. Ruhrfestspiele, what's your website, Olaf?
It's the same, like I can't show you the same thing.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Ruhrfestspiele.de.
Ruhrfestspiele.de, like what you have here. So
spell it however you want, and Google and you will find it.
Find it, yeah.
This was the invitation to my team to turn back to make the website fit for Monday, as we want to come with the program on Monday. And all my team is following with interest. I'm getting messages in between. Good. And hello, Team Theater der Welt. Have fun. Thank you for being with us.
and Stefan was, when we were starting this Zoom, he was getting a mail and a call to inform him about the upcoming rules for next week, right? And what will happen, and what will not. And he's great, I'm online. So it is all in flux. Bettina, thank you for making this happen, for help me to invite Stefan and Olaf, and also for your contribution. Your work is so significant. It's so important. In Germany, it's perhaps taken a bit for granted what it is. That's also what I learned here. It is so significant, so fundamental, that the idea support for the arts comes also from the governments we elect. There is a human right to access to healthcare, access to learning, but also the access to arts and the access to democracy and politics to be an equal part. These are fundamental human rights, and it's great, you know, that this is part of that structure that makes it possible. So thank you all, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks for having us.
Stefan, I hope you get good reviews.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Head of communication says hello. I just got the message. Whole team of Theater the World says hello to New York. Thank you, Frank, for this beautiful conversation, and hello to all you students and followers. We are with you, and enjoy the rest of this beautiful Thursday, which is gray and rainy here still.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
a lot,
Thank
Frank.
you.
Greetings
Thank
to
you.
New York.
Thank you. Thank you. We need your good wishes. Bye-bye.
Hopefully soon live again.